and welcome to another Round the Rotary podcast with me, your host, JP Warren, and thank you all for joining us today. And we're recording this on March 1st, 2021. What's oil today?
I do my best not to check it.
Let's check this out real quick. All right, as of this morning, oil was at $62.57, which is a 30% increase from where it was. Okay, all right. So usually when I record it, the reason why I did that, we had Nina Spencer on here, and she's like, it's funny, every time I listen to your podcast, you always say the price of oil, and whenever it's released, I like seeing the changes.
Oh, there you go.
So it's funny, like we recorded hers, it was like 52 or something like that. When we released, it was already at 60. So anyway, it's just kind of interesting. So anyway, with us in the studio, actually, before we kicked off, I got to say that Round the Rotary podcast is brought to you by Capital Petroleum Consultants. CPC specialize in project engineering and well site supervision in all disciplines of the oil and gas industry. Contact us through www.capitalpetroleumconsultants.com to see what CPC can do for you today. And find us on Instagram or wherever, or YouTube or wherever. Kind of like, subscribe, leave a review, tell us what you think. And with us in the studio, we have a man wearing many, many different hats. A buddy of mine, Riley Norris, who's the technical sales, right, for Patriot Drilling Services.
Yes, sir.
And a brand ambassador for Socorro Tequila.
That's right.
And this is a great title. We just talked about this. Is the concept integration consultant for Gulf Coast Graphene.
That's right.
So how you doing today, man?
Doing good.
Did you have a good weekend?
Staying busy. Very.
What'd you get into?
My son had a baseball parade to kick off the season, and then a basketball game, and then straight back for a baseball game.
Full weekend. Huh?
Oh man, I'm coaching both too.
Man, I'm kind of glad my daughter's not. She's only 7, but it's like,
Sure.
man, if she got into sports, she wouldn't follow me because it's like, I really don't do that.
My daughter's 7 too. She's in dance. She's got a competition in Fort Worth this weekend. Got to dance in Biloxi in a few months.
That's like serious.
Man, my calendar stays packed.
That's a lot of traveling, dude. That's what's funny is like growing up in Connecticut. I don't remember hearing about like all these like traveling dance or whatever. It's like it was always like in Connecticut, which is like 30 minutes you can get anywhere in Connecticut.
Sure.
So it's like you hear parents like traveling like 8 hours for this, or 7 hours for it's a commitment.
Oh, I had a good friend of mine whose son plays select baseball and went to Pennsylvania for a tournament, and they played a team from Baytown.
Are you
I was
kidding?
like, went to Pennsylvania to play a team from Baytown. He's like, man, I don't know.
That makes
can't
sense.
explain
That makes it sounds like the government's planning that. It's like makes no sense.
That's right.
Whatsoever. So anyway, man, why don't you get us kicked off? Thanks for coming in the studio today, man. And we're gonna get into this later. You brought two little goodies. You brought a Socorro Tequila, Anejo,
That's right.
which is a cool looking bottle, man. I love this.
Sure.
And obviously we're gonna post a little. We'll give this a little plug when it's launched.
There you go.
And we also bought some
Gun oil.
gun oil.
Bolt and barrel graphene infused lubricants.
Which you are the concept integration consultant. But we're gonna
That's one of the many things under Gulf Coast Graphene. But yeah, that's kind of a little brainchild of it.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, we're gonna get into that, but right now, let's get in your background right now, and then I kind of want to kind of pivot that and kind of when you started kind of get into diversifying your sales experience and kind of get into this other stuff. So kick us off, brother.
Yeah. So I spent a number of years in the restaurant industry, right? Out of high school.
Where are you from?
I'm from Houston, born and raised. Yep, Northwest Houston. You ever been to the horse track?
Yeah.
Same Houston horse track. I grew up a couple miles from there.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Jersey Village High School. Out of that, was doing some college part-time, could never really figure out what I wanted to do.
Right.
Was working in the bar and restaurant industry.
So which Houston restaurants?
So I was at Berry Hill.
Which Berry Hill?
Let's see. Buffalo Speedway. Spent a little time at the Westheimer location, and then I've actually moved to Austin before I got in the oil field and was working at the location out in Austin for a couple years.
Did you ever know my wife? She worked at the Post Oak Berry Hill for a little bit before.
I probably did. I mean, I worked at Yaya Mary's also, which is right next door.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
All right.
So yeah, I was one of the many Houstonians that worked in the Papa circuit for a while. Really enjoyed it. But as it goes with bartending, it's not really any kind of consistent.
I get it.
Right. So I had a friend of mine, Cody Baranowski, who's at D-Tech Rotary Steerable now.
Okay.
He was working in the field for Ryan. You know how field hands are. They got a new truck and
you've seen the toys.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, what you do, man? And he started telling me about MWD. I started learning a little bit.
So how old were you when you learned about this?
I was 22.
Okay.
Yeah. I was 22. At the time, no real ties to anything. Was living in Austin. Got in touch with Leem. Got on an opportunity and headed to the Haynesville.
So what was it? I understand. So you just got in touch with this random company, Leem. Is that the company your buddy worked for?
Yeah, at the time, he was at Ryan, then he went to Leem.
Okay.
They were hiring trainees, and it was one of those things where, as an MWD field hand, when you first start out, they tell you like, don't plan on seeing home for the next 6 months.
Right.
I think in the first 6 months, I had 5 or 6 days off. Right.
Okay.
went and
Were you
signed
were you
paperwork.
enjoying that? I mean,
Oh yeah, I
it seems
mean,
like the schedule from going like a bartender or working the restaurant industry to being in the field for whatever, however long that is,
sure.
for 5 days at
Yeah,
home
30
out of
days out of
6
the
months.
month,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So how was that shift for you?
I mean, it was different. When you're 22 and 23, it's obviously fun being out and about, but when you're learning a trade, you notice the trade-off of it. You're actually learning a career and you're growing and
Right,
progressing.
right.
And I spent a lot of time in the middle of nowhere. It was kind of boring. Fighting off the boredom was the hardest part.
So it was just one. I mean, I get it, man. It was whenever you're kind of remote location, it is kind of it's fun, but also gets pretty boring.
Oh, and MWDs. Unfortunately, it's a lot of sitting.
Okay.
Because like you rig up your equipment, you're in front of your computer, you're making sure things don't go wrong. And a lot of times, what can go wrong that can kill productivity is a laptop crashes or something simple like
Something like
that.
that.
Something you can't prevent, but a lot of your time is spent sitting at the desk making, watching EDR and gamma logs and stuff. That's really not a whole lot of fun.
So you're 23 years old. You're out in the field for X amount of time, but it's also, you're right. It's the time to do it. Like
Oh,
there's
for sure.
no wife, no kids. It's just one of those things. Now's the time to spend the time.
Oh, exactly. And I was, my first 48 hours in the field was I was up, rigging down,
Okay.
wirelining in, learning, right? Because
Yeah.
they're telling you want you to see everything. And the first 48 hours, I'm like, what have I gotten myself into?
There's an oh shit moment that hits
That
you.
oh
Like,
shit moment.
Are you sure I wanted to do this?
Yeah, I was so green. I walked up to my first rig floor with. They told me to stop by this hardware store and get FRs, and they got these Trinidad Seafoam green FRs that don't have a stain on them, steel-toed boots, never been scuffed, icy white hard hat, and we're walking up to the rig floor, and my lead hand, Billy Turner, he goes, "Hey man, they're gonna know you're new. Grab that hard hat, throw it in the dirt."
Yeah.
I did.
Scuff it up.
I wore it all out, smeared some grease on my FRs, and I get up there and we're doing our very first BHA, and I'm just in awe, right? I have no idea what's going on.
It's loud. It's big.
Oh, man,
it's
for sure.
A lot of moving parts.
The biggest thing they tell you when you're the worm is just don't stand in front of the driller's chair, right?
Yeah.
And Billy says to me, he's like, just stay out of the way, you'll be all right. I was like, all right, cool. Just watching, trying to take notes and learn. Yeah, exactly. Motorman comes up to me, he says, "Hey man, let me ask you a question." I go, "Let me stop you right there. I don't know. Whatever you're about to ask me, I don't have the answer. I'm just out here trying to learn." He's like, "All right, you're gonna be all right. Just out the way."
Yeah. It's the other way. I don't know where that is.
Yeah. I'm there.
Yeah.
Went from that straight to South Texas, then up to the Panhandle, then to West Texas, then back over to Oklahoma, back to South Texas.
So you're seeing a lot of. So you're seeing a lot of crews. You're seeing a lot of different drilling rigs. I mean, so this is a real good. So how long I guess were you out in the field before you transitioned into your next role?
So I was in the field for Leam a little over a year, I would say.
Okay.
And then I kind of interim was a training manager for some of the new hires. I would do like a quick 2-day boot camp before they go out to their first rig. And then that transitioned over a couple months into a coordinating position. I was an MWD coordinator over the Eagleford projects for.
That's kind of be a cool experience, though. I mean, to be on the field for less than a year, and the next thing you know, you're kind of doing this boot camp for new hires. You know what I mean? So you've been in those shoes not that long ago. You know what they're feeling, what they're facing. So I would say this. How was that experience for you?
Oh, it was great. That was one of the things I enjoyed the most about one, being a coordinator, and two, training, was giving people that same opportunity that I got getting out of whatever they were doing before. When I was doing some part-time school, I wanted to be a basketball coach. That's what I wanted to do since I was in junior high. I wanted to coach basketball. I loved basketball.
Okay.
I played AAU around Houston, big basketball guy. And then I get out to the field, like my second job, I work with a guy who was an ex-baseball coach in the Klein area. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're not going to coach. You're going to stick to this." I was like, "No, I'm planning on saving up some money." Yeah. And he was like, "Nope." I was like, "Dude, I coached for 20 years and here I am. I promise you're not going back." And here I am, decade later.
There you are. So he was right.
He was absolutely right.
All right. So you're bouncing around.
Yeah. But you get the opportunity to teach people something that could, just like me, shift their entire career path. And that was the beginning of me growing my network. Right. I met some great people that I'm still really close friends with. Billy Turner, one of them I keep in touch with. Nick Thayer, our MWD manager at Patriot, he hired me on my very first job, sent me out to a rig. I was wearing a gray suit, like real dressed, real professional. He looks at me, he's like, "You're going to a drilling rig, right?" Like,
I do now.
That's a nice suit and all, but you're gonna have to leave that one at the house. I was like, "Oh, I know. At least got that part figured out." But yeah, Todd Turner, good friend of mine.
So is this one of those things that you knew, like, did you understand the importance of network, or is this one of those
No,
things you
this-
just kind of start meeting people, start building relationships, become friends with all that stuff? I mean, that's kind of how I feel like how it graduates.
Oh, absolutely. Like you don't realize how small the oil field is,
Right.
specifically in directional drilling. You know, I still run into guys that I ran jobs with
Yeah.
a decade ago.
Yeah.
I was on a drilling rig with this guy in South Texas. I run into him now doing whatever else, you know. He was the mud engineer for this company, and I ran into him, you know, 10 years later or
It's
whatever.
funny watching how people that
So
you
small.
when you first meet, kind of where they're at now, whether it's on the drilling side, the operator side, the mud side. It's fun watching, I guess, your network's careers kind of evolve
Oh,
with
absolutely.
you. Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
All right.
I mean, that, especially in technical sales or any kind of executive sales, account management role, keeping in touch with those people that you've known over the years is kind of the best thing you can do because you
Yeah.
never know who ends up where.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I
There's
mean,
a number of MWD hands I see are now in drilling engineering roles, senior drilling engineer at wherever. I'm like, man, that guy was a night hand.
I remember that guy.
Remember that
Yeah,
guy.
I remember that guy. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and now they're calling the shots.
So, but I mean, that's kind of that's why it's important to, I guess, to not only increase your network but also stay in touch with them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what got me here today was, you know, like we mentioned, Daniel Lau, a good friend of
Yeah,
mine.
yeah.
Him and I ran jobs in East Texas for Phoenix and kept in touch over the years, running into each other at events. And then, you know, I know you guys are close too. So that's kind of how it always evolves.
Oil field's always small. It's only getting smaller too.
Oh, absolutely.
I think especially not just because, you know, people are leaving the industry and all that stuff, but I think through whether it's social media, whether it's these podcasts, whether it's you see people like, oh my God, this guy's connected to this person. I never knew that. I'm buddies with it. You know, it's interesting seeing how small the world is, especially with because before is, you know, sitting in a golf cart, like, oh, you know this guy? Actually, yeah, I do. Now it's like, okay, you can kind of see on the social media platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, on kind of who's connected to who.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
There's a lot of mutual friends out there.
Oh, and I told you, on LinkedIn, I messaged an engineer, ended up talking to him. Turns out we went to the same high school.
Just out of the
Small
blue.
world. I
Yeah.
didn't know each other, didn't know anything. I just told him part of town I was from. He's like, oh, hey, me too.
Really?
He lives in the Midlands, drilling engineer. It's funny.
And that's
Small world.
just how it works. All right, so you're at Leam, then you hop over to the operations coordinator over at Phoenix Technology Center. So what do you think about that?
Oh, it was great. They were similar size company, I would say.
Okay.
Just Phoenix has more of an international presence. They've got, you know, they had jobs in Canada, Russia,
Okay.
South America. You know,
Did you get to travel? Anything?
no, I
Okay.
didn't. But I did get to try out some newer tools. I got to run resistivity and learned a lot of stuff.
Okay.
They were a very technology focused company.
Okay, so I thought that was a nice little introduction to newer technology in the industry.
Oh, it
Okay.
absolutely was. Yeah. I was there for a short time, transitioned over to Crescent, which is where I met a lot of the people I know now at Patriot. Landon Lyons, who started Patriot, was one of the directional coordinators over the Haynesville.
Okay.
Landon and I became really close friends, stayed in touch over the years. I was in Oklahoma City all of 2016 covering their MWD operations there in OKC. Really enjoyed my time up there. I underestimated Oklahoma City as a town.
Dude, I've heard the same thing. I've never been, but I've heard it's an unbelievable place to call on people to visit, and it's just a cool place.
Oh, Oklahoma City's a lot of fun. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
The only time I spent in Oklahoma was field jobs out in western
Mhm.
Oklahoma, and it was really cold and windy
And that was your
miserable.
experience?
And I was like, oh man, I'm going up here. I don't know what to expect. I get up to OKC and loved it.
Really?
It was a great
So how
town.
long were you up there for?
All of 2016, pretty
Okay,
much. Yeah.
okay.
I was trying to push into a sales role covering, because I got to know just some of the OKC network from being in operations up there, and was trying to push for kind of a half OKC, half Houston role.
Okay.
My kids were young at the time, but this is 2016 when you can't really
So
can't really argue your placement.
So
right?
when did you meet your wife?
I'm not married.
Okay, you're not
No,
married.
not
So
married.
so when were your kids born?
My daughter will be 8 in May.
8
My
May.
son will be 7 in August.
Okay, August what?
August 8th.
Okay, my daughter's August 23rd.
Oh,
She'll be
yeah.
8. Okay, all right. So that's 20. Okay, all right. So
Yeah.
keep getting us there.
Yeah,
keep
sure.
getting- keep
So
getting us to today.
2016 was just trying to get some more time back in Houston with
Okay.
the kids. Was trying to move into sales from operations. MWD coordinating is always on call. It's just a lot of time on the phone, not really a whole lot of time. Even when you're at the house, you're not really there. You're kind
Right.
of half, distracted. But couldn't get the pieces to fall into place. Made the move to Wellbenders just to get back home, be more time with the kids. Still in MWD operations. In 2018, good friend Steve Rumsey gave me an opportunity to switch over into sales. They had brought on a new MWD manager, Larry Wright, and I said, hey, Larry, and I know you got a crew here. I'm going to go approach Steve about moving into sales. Steve said, hey, man, here's some cards, have at it. And I really enjoyed it. Steve was really great about teaching me the value of a good network. He said, all those people you ran tools with, all those other companies you worked at, they're your competition, but they're all your friends too.
Okay. Which is true out there.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
you don't notice, that's the thing. That's the best part of the oil field too. I mean, it is small and there's such a mutual respect. So it doesn't matter. Like, let's say I'm selling, you get the job. It's like, I don't hate this guy. Like, good for him. I wish I was in those shoes.
No, absolutely. And there's going to be circumstances where you may not be the right fit for the project,
Right.
but I want to know who gets it.
Yeah.
Because if they get out there and they can tell me this, that, and the other about that particular area, acreage, formation, they're going to give me a little drilling intel, right? Or if they're having trouble or for some reason they think they might be removed from the job, if I'm on a project and I'm going to get run off, I want my friends to get it.
Yeah.
They're going to tell me that they had the same issue I did.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I get that. So you went from MWD operations coordinator for 3 previous companies, and next thing you know, you're hopping into. Is it your motivation to hop in sales?
Absolutely. I reached out to Steve and I said, man, I'm either going to sell used cars or directional tools.
What about it drew you in?
I was in sales for a short time before I got in the oil field. Like I spent a lot of time in the restaurant industry. I did about 6 to 8 months cold calling attorneys for a software called Legal Match out of Austin. The software is really cool. It's like you make a profile for your case and attorneys can call you on it or whatever.
Okay.
But I had to cold call attorneys on the phone.
How was that?
It was brutal. Awful. It was awful.
Yeah.
Man. Attorneys want you to think that they're all rich. They all got to drive a Maserati, have really nice suits on, but they're struggling.
Yeah. Are they really?
Unless you get some of those like suing Coca-Cola kind of like those cases.
Those big cases.
I was calling on family law attorneys that are just basically having to deal with divorces and they're in some rough interactions. They're stressed and they're waiting to get paid from people that are financing a divorce and going through that kind of stuff.
So you actually enjoy doing these cold calls, these attorneys.
I do not hesitate on a cold call.
Okay.
And the same way as today. Unfortunately today cold calls get kind of frowned upon because everybody thinks you might be bringing in a virus.
Exactly.
But no, I really enjoyed jumping into sales. I told Steve when I moved into sales from operations, I said, hey man, look, I don't have a best friend who's a drilling engineer. I can't promise anything in 90 days. But I am very good at effective messaging and understanding how to relay value to a client. If you can just give me a stack of cards, I'll go build a network. So
that's what I was saying.
Good luck.
That's a good question to ask, and you just kind of answered it too, because I know there's a lot of people, whether they're an MWD operations coordinator role or like a well planning role, and they want to transition into sales. So I guess the advice that you would give these people that do want to transition to sales from this role, which seems like a natural progression. I mean, you know everything about the product. Now it's time to speak to that product to the customers. And how would you advise people, I guess, to make that leap or that step?
How to transition from operation to sales.
Yeah.
Understanding that when you're talking to a client, your performance may not be the first thing that they want to know about.
Okay.
Oftentimes that's what it is, right? Everybody and every salesman will probably tell you this, that if you have a record run in Karnes County, you're going to blast it to everybody in Karnes County. You want everybody to know your performance, and that is paramount. That's tip of the spear, right?
Right.
But trust goes so much farther in this industry. They want to know who they're talking to. They want to know that you know the product, that's great, but they want to know that you're being upfront with them.
How do you build that trust during times like this where you can't go?
And that was the hardest part for me when I started out in sales. Okay. I thought effective messaging was gonna get me in the door.
Like, it's a good product, you're going to use it regardless.
I can show you how we can add value, blah, blah, blah. They don't know who you are.
Why would they trust you?
I don't know who you are. You could be lying to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're making that up or not. Right?
Exactly.
Building trust is a tough thing to do, but it starts with, hey, look, I know where you're drilling. I know a little bit about the area. Let's just get a little bit of time to chat, even if it's nowadays it's a Zoom call or whatever.
Right.
And then you just, a lot of times, is asking them what they want to know. Or what they want to hear, and we a lot of times want to be the driver in the conversation. Here's what we can do, and here's everything that we've done, and here's our experience, here's our resume, here's everything that we've done. But a lot of times in the first couple minutes of a call, ask them, hey, what do you look for in a service provider?
Right.
What adds value to you? Because a lot of times you may find out that they've had some record runs in their area, but they don't like the way they're being billed, or they don't like a certain aspect of the personnel. Nothing
So it's finding more information versus kind of tooting your own horn.
Exactly. So if
Right.
you're moving into operations, you want to have data and be available and be ready and know those numbers, but that's not the hook and bowl.
You know what's interesting? I mean, obviously in sales, you and I have seen a lot of, actually everyone's seen probably a lot of different sales tactics, sales kind of approaches and all that stuff. And it's funny whenever someone immediately starts talking about work, you notice, if you read the customer or you read whoever they're talking to, it kind of shuts down a little bit because it's like, okay, why is this person bragging so much about work? Why are they talking about what they can do? You're right. You need to have, I guess, that relationship foundation first, that
Sure.
trust foundation before you start peeling off and saying what you can do, what you can't do. So I agree. Stay away from the work side of things. Try to focus on the personal side of things. What's driving this person? What's keeping this guy's, bowl of rice full?
Sure.
So yeah.
And getting to know them as a person is tough to do these days. You can't really catch them on a breakfast run
Yep.
like we mentioned earlier today.
Yep.
I mean, hey, I was king of the breakfast tacos for a little bit, I
That
was,
was a go-to.
oh yeah, man, Liberty Taco.
So
They make some great tacos.
once that kind of stopped in March. So wait, hold on. So before we get there, because you have a very interesting story starting in March, and kind of not only how you sell, but also the other stuff that you kind of got into. So let's keep going. So you're at Wellbenders, got into sales, you're enjoying it, right? You're leveraging your old networks.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
So,
When did you feel comfortable in sales?
I'm not sure I still do.
Okay. All right. You need both. You need both, brother.
Yeah. Every day, you kind of like, am I doing this right? But I feel like I kind of started to hit my stride at that 1 year mark.
Yeah.
I was confident in who I was talking to and reading the room.
Okay.
That's tough for guys in operations because let's say, for instance, I came from MWD, right? So I wasn't as confident talking about motors or well planning.
Right.
But I knew that if I could catch an engineer who knew a little bit about MWD, we could rap a little bit and go on and have that conversation. But I was pigeonholing myself in sales, right? I was sticking to what I knew,
What you were comfortable with.
what I was comfortable with.
Okay.
If you're transitioning into sales and specifically staying in your industry, be open about hearing out that customer because they may not really care about MWD. If you're an MWD operations coordinator, sure, you can tell them about
That might be
pulse width
important.
and data rates, but really just what they want to know is it going to stay in the hole?
That might be important to you, but not to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you go off on a tangent, a lot of times you might get them to they might glaze over a little bit and kind of stop listening to you.
I know that look a lot.
They're looking at the clock or they're checking their watch or
Not just customers, but wife and everything like that. The glazed over look when I'm trying to talk. I get that.
I think we've all been
I
there.
think we've all been there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So early last year, late 2019, I was working with at Wellbenders in sales. We had a guy in Oklahoma City named Brian Coy,
Okay.
good friend of mine to this day, and he was representing a couple different product lines.
Okay.
Wellbenders being one of them. And I just started chatting a little bit about kind of how he's able to, transition. You may have a good contact that trusts you, but his directional provider is doing a great job, and there's no reason to change him out.
So this guy, your connection, this guy, he not only represented kind of a independently your company, but also he had a big portfolio of different service providers that he was kind of repping.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with you.
Exactly. Right. So, and he had that network to work and talk about different product lines and stuff that he could offer and introduce the right kind of people to the right places. Right.
Right.
I got interested in that kind of concept because I was running into similar things. I would get to the point through my network, engineers and decision makers that were great, but they were like, man, we've got pretty good numbers. We're drilling ahead, staying on bottom. I'm not going to make a
No
change.
reason to switch.
Cool.
Yep.
But I knew that transitioning to a different product was tougher within the industry because there's some carryover where there could be opportunities where you kind of maybe a conflict of interest.
Okay.
I was like, well, I'd like to branch out and have some things to do outside of the oil field.
And when did you have this decision?
This was late 2019.
Okay.
I met some friends that have a shop near my neighborhood that manufacture graphene coatings and graphene lubricants.
Okay.
I went by one day, just popped in and said, hey, what do you guys do here? And we started talking. They showed me some of the firearms they were working on. They do stuff for downhole production. They work with some major service companies
Okay.
out there doing industrial coatings. And we just became friendly. I brought some tacos by there.
Okay.
Actually, in late 2019, I said, just show me a little bit about your company. We started chatting. I said, hey, y'all are into some cool technology, some cool science. you mind if I bring some contacts by and we work something out?
Okay.
And I said, hey, here you go. Here's our portfolio. Here's some of our technical pamphlets, stuff like that.
And so that was you doing this. That was you just saying, I kind of like this. I kind of jive with these people. I like what they have.
So they're one of the few labs in Houston that are working on graphene sciences. Graphene is somewhat new, and it's kind of
I don't know. Tell me about it. I don't
yeah,
know, I don't
sure.
know about it.
So graphene is molecular graphite.
Okay.
So if you have a large cluster of graphene, it would be graphite, just like a pencil lead. If you grind up a pencil lead on this table, you can separate graphene from graphite.
Okay.
Graphene is a two-dimensional substance, super, super small, a million times thinner than a human hair, right?
Okay.
Now, when suspended in a lubricant, what it does is it creates a sliding effect in
Okay.
metal and metal surfaces. So
Because it's 2-dimensional.
because it's so thin,
Right.
it can get in all those little nooks and crannies, right? What it does interesting in a firearm lubricant is, let's say you shoot semi-auto, all those contact points, it creates a barrier, so you're not actually getting the same metal fatigue.
Okay.
You get just increased.
There's a layer of lubricant on it.
That's right.
Okay, I'm with you.
Graphene works like, you ever moved heavy furniture? You got those little sliding discs underneath it.
Oh yeah.
Same concept.
Yeah. I
Graphene-
never positioned those correctly, and I was ended up scratching the floor. But I know what
Right.
you're talking about. Yes.
The graphene and lubricants do the same thing here.
Okay. Okay. So you identified this place. You start talking a little bit. You start jiving with their culture a little bit. And you're like, hey,
Exactly.
do you mind if I start kind of pushing this a little bit?
Sure. Got with a couple of friends. Ryan Moulton works with Gulf Coast Energy.
Okay.
Sells diesel fuels. We partnered up with Bolt and Barrel. Started Bolt and Barrel in April of 2020.
Okay. So
we-
right after
Absolutely.
lockdown.
We had a lot of time at the house, so we started queuing up some Zoom calls, talking about what we could do. Ryan was in special operations for Army Rangers, and he has a lot of
Okay.
a lot of contacts in that industry and defense and firearms and stuff like that. He got us in front of some people we needed to talk to. I knew a little bit about the science and launched Bolt and Barrel.
So how was that? I mean, so how was that? I guess you're calling on new customers, outside the realm of the oil and gas industry, which you've been in sales for now since 2018. 2018. So now you're actually getting outside of your usual
Comfort zone.
your comfort zone, your network, and calling on new people.
Sure.
So how'd you go on?
But what's interesting is a lot of people in oil and gas like to shoot guns.
Yeah,
I started telling people about this product, and it's been a bit of a door opener.
Yeah.
Some people will chat about it. Hey man, I saw you on Facebook mention Bolt and Barrel. What is it? Tell me about it. And I bring them a sample, try it out. Shoot semi-auto, put it in your long guns, whatever you like, and been getting great feedback so far.
All right. So that was April.
But again, this is talk to this person a little bit about themselves before you start pushing your product. A lot of times I'll sit there for 30, 45 minutes talking about waterfowl or, semi-auto, shooting pistols and stuff. And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, here's our program for the year. Here's how many wells we got slated. Here's, here's our hole sizes. You jump into it, right? But yeah, it was just kind of wanting something else to do with some free time. I mean, a lot of guys, they may be big golfers. They may be big
woodworking, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a hobby. Mine was just kind of like starting small businesses. Something I
Okay.
wanted to do since I was a kid. I didn't really know how to do it.
And this is the first time you've done this.
First time. I started Gulf Coast Graphene because really it was just like, and I posted it on LinkedIn and everybody was jumping to me like, hey man, did you leave Wellbinner? I was like, no man, I'm still at Wellbinner. It's a great company. It's just something I wanted to try. I wasn't really sure which way I was going to go with it.
Okay.
Bolt and Barrel was a, brainchild of it, right? But it was really just starting the conversation of, hey, here's what graphene is. Here's some things that it can do. Here's some of the stuff I'm doing. They do firearm coatings,
Was
industrial
it a
coatings.
complex
stuff like
process
that.
for you to start your own? Not that okay.
I filed an LLC, did the DBA,
Not that hard.
posted it on LinkedIn.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay. All right.
I've had a number of people reach out just because I have graphene in the business name. They're like, hey, tell me about what you're doing. And I'll just shoot them some images and some pamphlets and stuff, and just opens the conversation.
So this is down. So I guess this is in April. So pretty much this is kind of when rig count went from. Yeah, went
Yes,
from what
negative oil price, all that
negative
stuff. was
1,000 to
happening.
200 rigs,
Right.
negative oil price,
Mhm.
doom and gloom. LinkedIn's a graveyard pretty much. Everyone losing their jobs, losing their positions. No fault to them, just our
Sure.
industry. So you're like, okay, well I'm kind of bored. I want to do something new. I'm going to pursue this.
Right.
I like
right.
that. Okay.
So I mean, in oil and gas, we've seen. I'm sure you've seen a number of great salesmen that do a great job that lost their job for no fault of their own.
Engineers, salesmen, HR, whoever it is.
You could be doing everything right. Your pipeline could be full, and then come March of 2020, it's empty, and you didn't because of coronavirus.
Well,
you know what I mean? You have to have some kind of.
Unfortunately, it doesn't. And this is I think that I think hopefully people understand too. It's like I had a conversation with an engineer who got let go a couple weeks ago, and we were talking all this stuff. It's, yeah, it's kind of embarrassing and doing all this stuff. And I was like, time out, time out. At this day and age, you could be the best drilling engineer out there right now. You could be a top performer, or whether you're a salesman, engineer, whatever, and you get let go. That's just the nature of the beast right now. So it's very easy to say don't take it personal, but that's something that people need. You can't take it personal.
No, not at all. And learning the structure of different operators, the drilling engineer may be the best drilling engineer on the market, but because of his finance guys and their New York money decided, you know what, we're not going to drill this year, so no hard feelings, but we don't have anything for you to do for the next 12 months.
And that has nothing to reflect on how they are as an employee.
When we pick back up, we want you to be a part of this team, but right now, we're tying our money up in other things. There's, the drilling engineer is the project manager over the downhole stuff, but they may not be involved in the grand scheme of how that money's being spent, right?
Yeah, you're right.
It's no fault of theirs at
all.
And
that's the thing. That was the conversation I had. It's like, man, you can't take it personal right now. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast right now, and everyone understands.
No, not at all. And interesting, you see a number of drilling engineers now that have side businesses too.
Yeah, you are seeing that. And
there's a lot of initials consulting or whatever.
You're seeing that, and you're also seeing not just oil field, but you're also seeing a lot of people kind of do their own thing, like on the side. I guess whether you call it a COVID job or whatever it is right now, but it's like whether they're doing construction, roofing, pushing, gun oil, whatever.
Sure.
It's like you're seeing them kind of get creative during times like this.
Oh, the side hustle took off in 2020.
I think it did too.
Well, because so many people were left with, I got to do something, and you got free time, so you're running out of excuses. I know my projects around my house still sat there that I kept telling myself, when I get time, then I'm at home. I got all the time in the world, still didn't do them. But
do you think you kind of reevaluated kind of what people view as important and not important, or kind of like, do I keep on wanting to pursue this, or do I kind of want to do something that's more my hobby, that's something that's more passionate about? Did you see a shift in that at all?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can see some positives that came out of the lockdown or whatever we want to call it,
lockdown,
2 weeks to stop it or whatever.
Flatten the curve to find the cure.
Yeah, sure. Buzz phrases out there, so many of them.
I know.
People started reevaluating certain things that we were accustomed to accepting in the workplace, right? I know guys that live out in Willis that drive to downtown every single day.
Yep.
And then they're at home for 2 weeks and they're like, man, I've been spending 2.5 hours in my truck every single day.
So I realize that.
And that's not typically associated to on the clock work time, but especially as a salesman, I do most of my calls when I'm on the road.
Yep.
I'm sitting here in traffic, I might as well buzz this engineer and see if he's in the office, right? But operations guys don't have that same kind of, they may not have that same kind of process, right? If I don't have to spend 2.5 hours a day in my truck and I can be at home
and work as efficient
and be just as efficient, and I think if you've been to downtown Houston lately, it's still a ghost town.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of high rises trying to figure out what to do with a lot of square footage.
I'm very curious to see how that landscape changes.
Commercial real estate's got to be very strange.
I mean, I think 5 years ago, if this happened, I mean, I wouldn't be that worried about it. But I think through everything, whether it's Zoom, Microsoft Teams, you can get Wi-Fi on Mars right now. So I'm not too worried about people being productive. But that's the thing, though. It's like, you're right. People kind of were in the situation. It's like, man, I don't want to be in the car for 2.5 hours each day.
Right.
I enjoy hanging out with my kids. And I think it actually kind of reevaluated. I mean, some people that I knew before were so focused on, this is my next raise, this is my next promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I need this promotion by this age. I want this, I want to make this much. I think once everything the shit hit the fan and the dumpster fire started, I think a lot of those people I'm talking to now kind of made them reevaluate what's important. It's like, I'm making enough now. I'm fine with it. Or, I don't really want to keep stressing myself out of my family to get that next. So I think humbled a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. Like. And like we were talking about the side hustles and the projects, I think people want to be able to keep themselves busy.
Yeah.
You can only sit at home so much, right? And that was kind of how I grew the Gulf Coast graphene concept. Was like, I want to have, it doesn't need to be something that blows up and I become a millionaire off of. That'd be great. Yeah. But really, I just want something that if for some reason I end up on the RIF list, and I'm laid off, I have something to keep me busy until the next.
Something to focus on.
Until something to focus on. And it's something to grow, and it's mailbox money or whatever you want to call it, right? But it's diversifying, having something else to lean on. You know? And a lot of times I'm the kind of person where if I try to do all of one thing straight through, I'm not going to be able to give it 100% because I'm going to get distracted.
Yeah.
So I kind of like having 3 different things to work on, a couple different projects. I'm a tinkerer too, right? If I'm working in my office, my laptop, at my house, I'll get up and I'll go to my garage and I'll take apart a bicycle or something stupid to
Okay.
kind of busy my hands for a little bit. And then usually when I'm out there in my garage or I'm, doing something in the yard or whatever, messing with the dogs, something will pop in my head. I'll go, oh wait, you know what I should do? And I'll go back in, I'll reword an email or something. If I step out of the project for a little bit, give myself a little break, I usually have a little
That's when
clear.
the creative juices.
That's
start
when the
flowing.
creative juices start flowing. That's exactly right.
Right. So this pursuing the bolt and barrel, the graphene side of it, and then also we're about to get into tequila.
Sure.
Was this? I mean, I guess it was in March and April timeframe. Was this out of boredom, or was this more out of fear, or was it a combination of both?
No, so I mean, Gulf Coast Graphene started by just me wanting to have something on the side.
Okay.
My dad ran his own small business through most of his career of a graphic designer. Actually, around the corner from here, he had a shop off at like 19th.
Okay.
Yeah, it was cool. He used to come in the house with my dad. And I thought it would become a cool part of town.
That was the
And his dad, my granddad, had a couple of small businesses down in Victoria, where they're from, in South Texas.
Okay.
And my uncle, he owns a furniture supply company, him and a partner, and they always kind of had their own thing. I was like, man, I want something of my own,
Yeah.
and just something to grow and just to do in my spare time.
It's also fun. I mean,
Exactly.
Because right now you're a Patriot Drilling Services, and
Right.
you have that name to kind of help you sell. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a good name. It's a known name, and that's kind of cool. I guess jumping into something, kind of betting on yourself a little bit,
Oh, absolutely.
kind of throws in a different flavor in it. Kind of a different motivation.
And it was and speaking of, just like I said earlier, about people in industry like guns, I went to the OHH pistol shoot and passed out samples to the shooters.
Okay.
I was like, hey, everybody, I started this business. Try this out on your firearms. And everybody was really receptive, very friendly about it. Industry, it's not like I'm selling other motor parts on the
Right.
side or something,
You're not
Wasn't
doing
any kind of
conflict.
overlap.
Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
They
No,
were
it's
all-
just a little side thing.
Something for fun.
So when did this? So let's talk
Socorro.
let's talk about your other side
Sure,
hustle, which
sure.
is was interesting to me.
Right.
So
Socorro Tequila.
looking at this beautiful bottle right
Yeah,
now.
thank you. So check out that label. I want to highlight a couple things for you.
Okay.
The name Socorro literally translates into aid, relief, and assistance. And if you see up here on the handle, on the top, case for a case, or caja por caja, for every case of tequila the company exports from Jalisco,
Yeah.
we donate a case of bottled water to orphanages in the Jalisco state.
Okay.
Potable water is a big shortage down there in the area. So the 2 brand founders, Josh and Pablo, are ex-Southern Glazers guys that worked for a couple different brands and distributing.
Yeah.
And Pablo was like the international market kind of lead for Southern Glazers. They went down to Jalisco, spent about a year and a half visiting distilleries to try and find the right distiller that they wanted to work with. And while they're down there, they're having lunch at this, little taqueria, and this girl walks up selling chiclets and pan dulces and like
Yeah.
little Mexican wares. And they're like, oh, what are you going to buy with the money? And she's like, I'm getting water for my school. They learned about kind of the potable
need.
water shortage and the need, and they're like, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to do something here. So if you see the label is the water, the helping hands, and the agave.
Yeah.
Case for a case. Drink tequila, help others is our kind of catchphrase.
So these guys are down there. They identified this need. They finally meet this one distillery.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So this master distiller, he only works with about 4 brands. This is a Los Altos Tequila. So a lot of people that I've met, as I'm sure if you notice, a lot of your guests, we're all typically bourbon guys, right?
Bourbon, rum, and tequila.
Bourbon, rum, and tequila. So a lot of people don't know there's 2 main styles to tequila.
Okay.
There's Los Altos tequilas, and then there's Valley tequilas.
So Los Altos is higher.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, your agave grows at a higher altitude. Now, when that agave grows at a higher altitude, the piña, or the main bulb of the agave plant, gets sweeter notes to it. So your
Okay.
Los Altos tequilas are going to be a little bit more vanilla forward, sweeter flavors. And then your Valley tequilas are going to be more of a earthy, peppery kind of a bite tequila.
Okay.
Just 2 different styles, a lot like space sides versus blended scotches.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
bourbons
Highlands versus So which one is this?
This is a Los Altos
Okay.
tequila.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So all 3 styles, twice distilled, 2 weeks rested before they bottle it. But what I really notice about this tequila that stands out, they aerate their tequila before they bottle it, a lot like red wine. So you get a lot of those harsh fumes out of the tequila. It's a very smooth, easy sipping tequila.
Okay.
That añejo I brought you is a big fan with a lot of my whiskey drinkers. Rich notes in it. You're going to get vanilla, toffee, molasses.
Yeah, a little sweeter side.
Man, so I'm killing it right now with añejo old fashions. You ever had a carajillo?
Talk to me.
So carajillo is an espresso cocktail. They sell this product line at a boozy.
Yeah.
Go to a boozy, ask for a carajillo with
Socorro
Socorro.
Tequila. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Great in coffee. For those that might
Let me
want
see
to
about
know.
that. 10:30 a.m. Let me see about that.
But yeah, I met this brand through a friend of mine, Ryan Townsend at Energy Tubulars.
Okay.
We're having a beer at D&T, one of my little local spots. Like a lot of my ex Yaya Marys and Berry Hill friends that run D&T now, they took it over. But we're there having a beer. I mentioned to him I've been on a tequila kick. This is like June of 2020.
Okay.
When no one was allowed inside the
Right.
restaurants, we're sitting on their patio, and he's like, "Hey, funny you mentioned that. A good friend of mine started a tequila brand based out of Dallas." And I said, "Hey, let me see his email." I reached out to Josh Irving and said, "Hey, look, man, I met Ryan. Just want to talk a little bit about it. I had years in the Houston restaurant industry. Might be something fun to do on the side, nights and weekends. When I got some free time, if I don't have my kids with me or whatever, I'll just give me a couple bottles and some business cards. I'll go down and
I'll
just
see what can
meet
happen."
restaurants." Yeah, and a lot of what I do is I go to liquor stores, let the employees try it, teach them about caja por caja, the name, the styles.
Are they receptive to that? I guess.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I guess they never know when they find their next big hit. Or
Sure.
their next big. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's tequila's going through a bit of a renaissance right now, a lot like bourbon did in the last decade. A lot of people are coming out with them.
Yes.
You're getting new labels. You look at tequila shelves that used to be just Cuervo, Patron,
That's
Herradura,
it.
right? That was kind of all they offered. Now the line is all the way down the aisle at, for tequila. And
Well, you're seeing a lot of people. You're seeing this, and you're seeing, I think, what's his name, Aaron Martinez with Wildcat. He has a tequila, and you also see The Rock,
Oh, yeah.
introducing his tequila. So you're kind of seeing tequila kind of take a little a main stage. You're right. The
Absolutely.
whole bourbon thing did blow up about 5-10 years ago,
Mhm.
and you are seeing tequila take more of a center stage now.
Sure. A reason I started leaning on tequila, Cody.
Literally.
Yeah, sure. Cody at D-Tech will vouch for this too. All my friends call me the pass out artist because we go get together for a football game, crack a couple beers. I'm about 2 beers in. I'm usually on the couch, like
Sleeping.
dozy, right?
Yeah.
But tequila's a little more light and refreshing, and can sip a cocktail and not get too
So you're okay.
sloshed. Yeah.
So you meet
But
this guy.
tequila as a spirit is naturally kind of light on your body. The sugars from agave are called agavins, and it creates just a different kind of.
Did you learn all about this like after you started becoming a brand ambassador?
Yeah, actually, man, I'm a bit of a nerd. The same thing I did with graphene.
Talk
I hear
to me.
about it, I Google it, YouTube it, and I'm just like, I kind of tend to bite into it and I jump into something. My quarantine, I'm at home, I might as well figure out to do something with my hands. I tried to figure out how to build a bicycle, built this custom road bike, got graphene, friction reduction coating on the
God.
drivetrain. Dude, I nerd out, man. I nerd out pretty
I like
bad.
that though. I like that though. So let's continue to walk me through this process. You met this guy up in Dallas.
Sure. So met Josh and Pablo in Dallas, had lunch with them, told them a little bit about what I'm doing, said, hey, I'm looking to grow my career to be, some non-competitive products that
Diverse,
I represent.
yeah.
And just some stuff to do in my side time.
Yeah.
There's guys that are, like I said, woodworking or whatever. Just
Whatever hobby it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I missed the hospitality industry. I
Okay.
really enjoyed it, but it just wasn't consistent enough, especially when you're father to two,
Yeah.
you gotta have something a little more regular. But and nights and weekends, I still really enjoy going to restaurants. It's one of my favorite hobbies. I like to try the new restaurants and meet the management. Hey, how'd you start this concept? And Houston is really undervalued. I mean, people know that it's a great restaurant scene, but there's a lot of people, especially in our industry, that I meet that get dropped here from other cities, and they don't know that about Houston. Where I used to live, off of Westheimer, every country in the world had a restaurant within a mile or two.
It's so good too.
It was awesome.
You can get Afghanistan food. You can get French food. I mean, it's legit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all of it. And I just enjoy doing that, even if I don't have anything to sell to them. Right?
Yeah.
I just enjoy going to those places and learning about it. You're right next to one of my favorite spots, 8th Row Flint.
Okay.
I love that spot,
All
man.
right.
That was one of the first things I got onto was the ranch waters at 8th Row Flint. They use Satol. Have you had that?
They use what?
Satol.
No.
Satol. I'll tell you about this. This is
Tell
something
me.
I learned. So Satol is a cousin of the agave plant.
Okay.
It's more of a Texas-based agave style plant, right? And it creates more of a It's more of like a Blanco tequila, just a little different flavor, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like sour mash to bourbon or whatever,
Okay.
right? But try it out. There's a company out of Austin called Desert Door that makes this at all. That's pretty fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you
Agave spirits.
you meet with them, and this seems like something too that might be motivate you more to kind of to push as well because it's a case for a case.
Sure.
It's because there's such a good cause behind it as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I reached out to this brand after I tried it. I was like, this is amazing. I learned about case for a case and just said, hey, I think you guys are building something really powerful here. I'd like to be a part of it. And, I can't commit full time to you because I have a full-time job at Patriot,
Yeah.
but here's a little bit about me. Here's my background. And I think that you guys have a great product here. And they were like, hey man, here's some cards. You think you can help us on the side? We'll work it out later. So, and it's just fun building a brand. Same thing with Bolt and Barrel. People, like you said, betting on yourself, not a known name.
Yeah.
Socorro doesn't have a celebrity or a pro athlete that backs our product.
Well, you after you get on this podcast.
Yeah, that's right. I thought we were going to have chicken wings here today. Is that what the show does?
But it's the hot chicken wings, the spicy. I wouldn't mind doing something like that. That'd be actually a pretty funny idea. But it also there's a little pride too whenever you're sitting there and you kind of hear someone order this or like me, like God, I probably had a little bit of part in that. There's a little pride in that.
Oh, absolutely.
Like. Yeah.
I mean, when you get a placement somewhere, it's a placement meaning you get onto the bar or like onto the cocktail menu. It's fun because you're going to get to see your friends that
people enjoy it.
They post a picture on Instagram of, hey, I'm having Socorro today or whatever, and the cold calls haven't been shut down in the restaurant industry. The taco runs were popular in oil and gas forever, but as well as I do, you go into a place with a business card, you have effective messaging, you can do a great job for them, and they just don't. They get beat up by service companies. They don't want to hear it. You walk into a restaurant with a backpack full of tequila, you're just like, come on in, buddy.
Sit down. What you got for me today? Yeah. So how's that been? I mean, that was kind of the questions that we had. I mean, so how's it like selling in a different industry? I mean, I know there's a lot of, what are the similarities or some of the differences?
Sure. I mean, the difference is that it's not as hard of a no or a close.
I'll tell you one thing, man. Houston and oilfield sales is like Shark Tank.
That's a part. You're saying you went to Dallas. That's a part of the reason I like going to Dallas and Oklahoma City. There's not as many service companies there.
Yes.
They don't get blasted all day, and I don't blame them, man. I mean, even when I was just a coordinator, I had guys would call on me, and I'm like, not today, man.
Sorry. Yeah.
I know hard feelings.
It's a Shark Tank. I mean,
absolutely.
You hear about people, when they used to call people in Denver, Dallas, and Austin. It seems like it's a much more tight knit community because for every one JP, there's 500 other JPs calling the same person. You know what I mean, with the same bullshit. Right. So it's kind of a Shark Tank here. So they're not saying no to you. You walk in with some tequila.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not saying no to you, and typically they're receptive. I mean, tequila's popular right now, so if you can show them that you can, and this is where we branch into similarities. If you can show them you can add some value, right? Because when you get a celebrity or a pro athlete behind your brand, that marketing cost makes your bottle costs go up a lot. But when you go in there and say, no, I just have really good juice in a small company, it'll be like, pour me a glass. You pour it up, tell them a little bit about Caja por Caja, the name Socorro, the story behind it. They're usually like, okay, we can make this work. And then the easiest way to do it is I'll leave them with some of it, say, make yourself a couple cocktails, tell me which ones hit best, and I'll follow up in a couple days, and I come back and they're like, hey man, we made this really great cocktail with Saint Germain, elderflower liqueur, and all this other stuff. And
so people kind of get creative with it, which is kind of cool.
The old fashioned I told you I do with that añejo, smoked old fashions, got the cool fumes coming off of it and stuff. Yeah.
That sounds really good, by the way.
Great, man. It's good.
I know it's kind of early, but it sounds kind of tempting. So it's kind of one of those things too, and I kind of see like there's been a push for whether these more boutique distilleries, whether it's bourbon or whether it's tequila or whatever, it's gin. There's more like a boutique feel. So I mean,
absolutely.
I feel like if you're coming in with a Patron or something like that, it's not going to get as much love as when you come in there with something good in a small like distillery.
Well,
like
I mean the phrase small batch, right?
Yeah.
Craft.
Yeah, craft
tequila, right? So the piñas and Socorro are still roasted in traditional brick ovens. They're you go to mass produce certain things, you lose a little bit of the charm. These are still hand pulled agaves, hand chopped agaves, roasted in traditional brick ovens. They've got some real kind of family traditional stuff going on with this brand.
That's got to be cool, actually. Kind of, I guess, also not just selling something completely different than what you normally sell, but it's also kind of cool. Probably, I would assume, expanding your network outside the oil and gas industry.
Oh, for sure. That's been something like I said, I missed just in the hospitality industry. Right? Restaurants, bars, hotels, stuff like that. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't consistent to match up with my life at the time. But it's been fun just getting to know people. We meet some great folks. I mean, working with management and Landry's and people that run,
So you're
Hotel
going.
Zaza.
So you're going after the bigger accounts.
Why not?
Okay, I did. Okay.
Oh man.
Is that a pain in the ass to try to get in front of those people to talk about?
I mean, they're busy too. So
Right.
like, and they went through a whirlwind in the pandemic just like we did, right?
Yeah.
But it created an opportunity when, even at 50% capacity, when restaurants start opening back up, they miss a bit of customer service. They get hit up by vendors all the time too, right? But when you show up and you just ask them, hey man, how's it been going? I know you went through hell the last couple months. How you guys doing? They usually open up. They'll tell you, well, this 50% capacity is kind of hurting us, but our patio's got good square footage. We're able to do this and that. And then just talking about how to drive some traffic their way. They usually sit down, they're listening to you. What are you seeing so-and-so restaurant doing? How are they doing over there? And Houston restaurant industry, they all know each other. It's a lot like Oilfield.
So
It's a small network.
But it's kind of the same approach, I would assume. It's going in there and listening to kind of what's going on with them. It's understanding what's kind of affecting them in their day or day-to-day operations and kind of what they can improve on, and then just kind of offering your knowledge on that, your expertise, and that kind of builds that trust.
Absolutely. And as I'm sure you know, in CPC, project management, right?
Right.
Knowledge on site, right?
Right.
So one thing that really helps us in Bolt and Barrel and Socorro, when I get a placement, so Bolt and Barrel I sell to gun stores, right? We're in Spring Guns and Ammo in Crosby. And you go in there and you ask them, what do you know about gun lubricants? They're like, well, I know that one sells and that one doesn't. I'm like, all right, do you know the formula behind that? Typically, no.
Right.
You tell them a little bit about your science, why you use a particular formula, why graphene-infused lubricants are really effective. Your point of sale is going to be your best salesman. So those bartenders that are going to be behind the bar and you go in there and order a drink, I'll have a whatever on the rocks.
All right.
You know what I want them to do? Hey, man, you had Socorro? I make a really great añejo old fashioned. You should try it. Or the bourbon drinkers, usually I can switch them over pretty easily.
No,
Cognacs
that's a good point. Yeah.
And wine drinkers, they typically like barrel aged stuff. 14-month age New American Oak, and that's Socorro Añejo right there. Bust it open, give it a little whiff.
I'm gonna give it a little whiff right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
man.
give it a little whiff. That's such a cool, I guess a shift. You know what I mean? I mean, it's COVID. You kind of already have that bug to kind of get out there, kind of diversify a little bit, and here you are, just kind of out there now, pushing directional tequila and lubricant.
Right. It's been fun, man. I'm grateful for Patriot to understand what I was doing. They know that I'm still grinding for them. That's my 9 to 5, right?
And they're cool with that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I told them, I let them know what I was doing.
Ooh, this smells sweet.
Yeah, very.
It smells really good.
Yeah, vanilla forward,
Yeah.
and chocolate, and
I can smell the vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I dig it.
Yeah, no, I told Patriot what I was trying to do. I joined Patriot, having known these guys for a long time since our days at Crescent.
Yeah.
They're one of the top Haynesville drillers for sure, without a doubt. I joined them for that reason. We saw through COVID, East Texas having the least rig variance in the market. Haynesville stayed pretty steady as far as rig count. I saw that opportunity. I know they run a great product. We acquired the Crescent entity back in September. So we're operating over 300 motors, enough equipment to service 60 to 70 rigs. We consolidated 4 or 5 different shops into our Houston shop here on the Beltway. We'll have us a crawfish boil here soon. You come out and check out the shop.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, man, we got several breakouts. We got enough kits to service most of North America right now.
Hey, you tell me when and where, and I'll be there.
Yeah, man.
I'll definitely be there. So we're coming on about 53 minutes about this, and I kind of want to talk to you about something that I've been that I've noticed. That we kind of speak the same talk when it comes to this, the whole us versus them bullshit. But I kind of wanted to ask you, what stereotype, I guess, would you wish to kind of debunk about, I guess, the oil and gas industry today, or the oil and gas industry?
Well, sure. Like I'd mentioned to you before, what I said on Colin's LinkedIn post about people that don't know the oil and gas industry. For one, we don't hate the planet.
Yeah.
I want to reiterate that we're in a space of providing energy, and you look at operators, they're doing the same thing. They're looking at opportunities for renewables and stuff like that. We're not against that.
No.
We're just continuing to do our jobs as best we can. But majority of us are outdoorsmen.
Yes.
Or outdoors women.
Care about the environment.
We care about the environment. We give to CCA. We do functions that raise money for the environment. We're not against that. We're just we like to hunt, fish, hike, do all types of stuff. We care for the environment.
Right.
That's a little ridiculous, and that I think that there tends to be a very patronizing view of our or
Camp.
polarizing view of our
with
camp.
it.
Yeah, it's like you're either
This or that.
yeah, and that's so unhealthy
But then
in
again,
the world.
but that's how it is. I feel like with everything today, whether it's Yeti, whether it's Chick-fil-A, whether it's Starbucks, whether it's whatever it is, it's either you like it, it's either you completely, it's either black or white. There's no shades of gray, which is it's very polarizing. You have to choose a camp about everything.
About everything. It's like there is a middle ground, and it's obviously very popular in politics too.
Yes.
There's a large majority of us that align more center than Facebook will have you believe.
Facebook, yeah.
Facebook will and LinkedIn will have you thinking that you're either left or you're right.
And if you're
neither.
And if you're in the middle, you're wrong.
Yeah, and
You need to choose a side.
That's right, because winner takes all in this country, and unfortunately, you end up with a lot of finger pointing of people to blame,
and you're not solving anything.
You're not solving anything. You're sitting here as playing referee.
You're blame shifting. Oh, we're doing this because of Republicans. We're doing this because of Democrats. It's nonstop.
Nonstop. And you see, I don't like to glorify any celebrity.
Right.
It drives me nuts when people take everything that they say as fact.
Right.
And politicians are politicians. Every single one of them.
Full of shit. Full of shit. All of them.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. If you go through their Twitter feed, you'll find something that contradicts the last thing they said 2 days ago.
Yep.
It's like, come on, man. Stop. Don't.
It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, in my opinion. I mean, they're all full of shit.
100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel. And it's tiring being in this middle ground kind of, because I try to shed light to each side. I got a bunch of very liberal friends that think we're all out to destroy the planet. And I'm like, well, no, man. I mean, somebody's got to charge your Tesla too, man. We're happy to do that.
But that's the thing, though. I feel like a lot of those people that are, again, this is the whole camp, the fossil fuels versus renewables. Man, it's not like that. We coexist. We have coexisted, and we're continue to coexist. So
Absolutely.
Let's stop kind of digging our heels in, and because we still need to provide energy, efficient, affordable energy to people out there. So Let's stop acting like it's black or white. Like if a wind turbine goes up, that's X number of oil and gas jobs. That's not necessarily true.
No.
The population's getting bigger. We need more sources of energy for this population. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's the camp, like this versus that, fossil fuels versus renewables. And it's exhausting, but that's good that you have those, liberal friends. I have liberal friends too, because think about it. If they're so anti-oil field and all that stuff, and all you're going to do is meet them with hostility and like, oh, you're an idiot because how'd you get here today? It's like, man, you need to have those healthy conversations with people so they understand, like, okay, well, maybe the oil and gas industry isn't how it's portrayed like it is in the movies or mainstream media or what they were in the 1980s. They're not paying for the sins of their fathers and mothers. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, I think a lot of times that an easy target for any kind of negative press is big oil. But the same thing can be said for big data, who sells your personal information to whoever, right? Or big pharma, big ag, anything. Anything is an easy target, right? But the person who works for that industry, who's providing a living for his family, isn't a villain. They're not out to get you for anything. They're out to do their job.
Yeah.
Find themselves,
provide for the families,
and be a person, a productive member of society.
Yeah.
And I don't know enough about the way our industry economy works, but if there's enough renewables out there that stabilizes oil between 60 to 100, and we stay steady like this instead of this,
I'm fine.
Bring it.
Because those peaks and valleys in the past 10 years have been a lot sharper.
Bust is what makes people get laid off.
Exactly. And if it's more stable with other sources of energy, I'm all for that.
I agree. I think a large majority of us do.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the industry are like-minded, like you and I, having the same conversation, but it hasn't happened. We find ourselves in this middle ground of like trying to play referee between two wildly different sides of the conversation.
You have one arguing with emotions and all these stories, and you have the other arguing with just data, facts and statistics, and the facts and statistics, which kind of is more oil and gas. Like, oh, you like that water bottle? That's hydrocarbon. You like that watch? That's hydrocarbon. Look, that's important, all that stuff. But you're also pushing this camp farther away from you. Just like when you post something on Facebook about why your camp's right, you're not making other people see your life like, oh shit, this guy's right. I never thought of it that way.
Sure.
If anything, you're polarizing them apart more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think Facebook's a terrible environment.
Oh, it's horrible.
because there's such an audience when you're on there that if you try to say something against me.
Not even
data.
against.
Yeah, if you have an opinion,
if you have an
they
opinion,
think you're arguing with them. And I'm like, hey, well, man,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, look at the other side of the coin, or like look across the fence a little bit. That doesn't necessarily mean that this person's wrong and you're right.
I saw
They just
one.
have
I
a
saw.
different-
I saw one post you did. You're like, hey, look, tired of the all the battles and all the stuff. Like, here, let's be neutral. And then people argued about you being neutral.
Right.
Like, why pick a side? You're like, I don't need to pick a side. It's my coffee. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It keeps me awake. Whatever it was like, I don't need to pick a side. Like, this thing keeps my drink cold. I don't need to agree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
I think if you go looking to align your products in your everyday life with whatever fits your personal narrative,
Political narrative.
it's going to be a lonely road.
Yeah.
You're struggling to find stuff.
You're cutting out a lot of potential customers right there. A lot.
Yeah. If you choose one side of everything, then you're going to have a hard time finding anything.
But I think that's a great point. I mean, these are just conversations, and it's just framing the conversations a little bit differently. It's okay if someone disagrees with you. It's not going to take away from anything. And it opens up to have these conversations. Like, yes, you have a Tesla, but let's talk about that Tesla. It's not angels and unicorns that's running off of. It's
Right.
actual. So it's important to have those relationships with people that do disagree with you, but you can still engage in conversations and still be friends with them.
Oh, absolutely. And look at what happened to us the last couple of weeks with the freeze. It just re-sparked a political debate.
Yeah.
It was just chaos. And I knew it when I was like, well, this freeze happened. I was like, here we go.
Yeah, everything failed.
Here we go.
Everything failed.
Everything did.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating to feel like you're just watching an argument. Like, you ever been in a room where two people are arguing, they're talking over each other, and you're just like wanting to put your headphones on and like tune them out.
It's like that one with idiosyncrasy. You know what I mean? It's just like, you guys aren't. You're bringing us back. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, if anything, that should highlight that we need more sources of energy versus wind farms failed or the pipes froze. Everything shut down. Everything hit the shitter.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think anybody's making progress if you point a finger at somebody else. And this is how I feel about a lot of things. Man, look, the firearms industry, people that are pro gun control don't want to hear when someone in the 2A industry, Second Amendment industry says, hey, no, look, there's majority of the people that purchase firearms at gun stores and go to the shooting range and pop off a couple of mags on the weekend, they're responsible gun owners.
Yeah.
They protect their equipment.
Yeah, they're responsible gun owners.
Yes. But people don't like to hear that when they're pushing an argument.
The emotional, fear-based argument.
Right, and the opposite is true when they say, well, everybody's trying to take our guns. Like, I don't think they're trying to do that. They're just trying to make sure that guns don't end up in the wrong hands. And of course, this is a debate that I can't handle. I can't cure this problem. But if you don't sit down at the table in the middle, and this goes for any debate in the world of anything, if you don't sit down in the middle and give and take a little bit and compromise, you're going to continue to point fingers and get nowhere. And it's exhausting because you watch this cycle of this same argument happening on thousands of topics out there, and people just refuse to give a little bit because they feel like they're losing.
It's just like what I've said about this whole fossil fuels versus renewables and all that stuff. It's not one of those things where it's like we need to bully ourselves we don't have two separate tables. It's an energy table. Okay, we don't need to bully our way at that table. It's one of those things where we needed to come and say, hey, look, we belong at this table. We've been at this table longer than y'all, so let's talk about this.
Sure.
Versus gripping on to the oil and gas and fossil fuels. Like, no, we're here, we're necessary whether you like it or not. So let's just have the conversations right now.
No, absolutely.
Let's discuss it together.
And it's
stop villainizing us.
Exactly. And I think people that are against oil and gas like to point to other countries that may be able to, like Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Costa Rica's running on windmills. Well, Costa Rica doesn't have nearly the population that Houston
More
does.
infrastructure.
Exactly. Yeah, right. So it's like that's not apples to apples. Like, if you're going to keep driving to work every day, you need to understand that this is a needed industry, and sit here and sit down at the table and talk. And they don't like to see the
reality,
the charitable environmental work that operators do.
Mm-hmm.
Big oil and gas companies do it all the time. They build schools, run cleanup projects around the country.
You drive through South Texas and all that stuff. You see some of these brand new high schools like that are built. They're beautiful, pristine, and all that stuff. That's, I guarantee you, it's tenfold better than what was there, 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And but that's if you're digging your heels in, like you said, and you're picking an enemy, you don't want to see the good that's coming out of it.
Yeah.
But if you do, you probably find yourself in that middle ground at that table, compromising, understanding. Everybody's trying to exist together. We're all pushing the same concept here.
Those
Betterment for
those
everyone,
conversations
you
are
know?
more productive than people know. But unfortunately, this world we live in, it's very us versus them, you versus me, my beliefs versus your beliefs. And if your beliefs kind of are different than mine, then you're wrong. You're an idiot.
No, absolutely.
You're a cuck.
You're a cuck.
You're
That's
a
it.
cuck.
That got popular in the last year, right?
Very popular.
Yeah, you're drinking the Kool-Aid and you're an idiot.
Yeah,
You
you're
don't
a
know
cuck.
as much as I do. There's no way you could possibly understand anything I have to say. And I'm
Shit,
like,
man,
well,
there's enough disagreements going out there. There's enough this for dads. You gotta have conversations, because obviously what's happened the past 4 or 5 years and all that stuff through social media, and all that, it's not helping anything.
sure.
We're not getting anywhere.
No, I mean, I'm not one to dive into politics at every opportunity.
hate
I do my best to avoid it.
I hate politics.
But if it comes up, I'm going to share my opinion. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I welcome everybody else to. Just when you're having that conversation, keep your ears open and accept things that you agree with and talk about the things you don't. Don't just
Disagree.
tune them out and disagree. That doesn't get anywhere. Doesn't progress anything.
Frame the conversation.
Exactly.
Frame a little bit better. So is there anything else you'd like to bring up with us today?
Man, I don't think so. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. Again, everyone, this is Riley Norris, the technical sales at Patriot Drilling Services, the brand ambassador at Socorro Tequila, and the Gulf Coast Graphene Concept Integration Consultant. First off, man, loved hearing your story, but I also loved hearing about the kind of the other stuff that drives you, the side hustles, that you're betting on yourself, and just the fact you just finding something cool to go with, whether it's a gun lubricant or whether it's a bottle of tequila that gives back to the community. It's cool, man. I enjoy hearing how it's different but similar in sales in different industries, and I just love hearing your story and your outlook about sitting around the table, and it's okay to people who disagree with you, man. I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, we're going to plug this, and thank you for this delicious bottle of Socorro Tequila. Where can you find this?
We're in all the Total Wines. We're in a number of specs around Houston.
Okay.
What I'll do is I'm working on a little map that's going to have some of the restaurants and some of the different stores. I'll
Nice.
post it to LinkedIn, a little Google Maps link. Just click on it and you can see but we are in all the Total Wines, and I want to say 20 or so specs in the Houston
Okay.
area. Dallas listeners, you can find us just about any cocktail bar you go to.
So
all the Total
big
Wines up
reception in Dallas. Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, the
Gotta get some
brand's
people.
brand's based out of Dallas.
Oh,
So those
okay,
guys,
nice.
Pablo and Josh, have a great network.
Oh, shit, I was just up there. I should have got some.
Hey, man.
Okay.
You can pretty much pop in anywhere and find us up there. But yeah, I'll be posting some info about either drilling tools, graphene, or tequila soon. So
Well, you got something that interests everyone.
I'll
in
be
those-
around. That's right.
In those buckets.
thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, mate. I appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.